Coming up on today's episode of Airborne Unlimited, Michael Bloomberg turns attention to space, Bernie Sanders' new no plane, no gain spokesman, and Roddenberry sues federal government over Space Force logo. I'm Sophie Hurlock. Billionaire Michael Bloomberg has announced he will start his own commercial space company in an effort to spend the money he has earmarked for his presidential campaign. Bloomberg joins a small but growing club of billionaires who have made their fortune in the tech industry and then started launching rockets into space. But rather than build something from the ground up, Bloomberg is exploring what it would take to buy NASA from the U.S. government. The NASA budget for fiscal year 2021 is estimated to be $25.2 billion, which Mike could probably find if he looked under his couch cushions, and much of the hardware is so old, he could probably get it for a fire sale price, a source stated. The source also said Bloomberg wasn't looking to go small, with things like suborbital joy rides or ferry work to ISS. Rather, his plan is to establish a colony on the moon or Mars, where he can limit the amount of soda colonists drink, and where there will be no salt on the tables, since he was unable to do so in America. When President Trump learned of the rumor, he tweeted, "He'll never get off the ground. I'll take him out with my Space Force." We'll be right back with Around the Patch.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Welcome back. It's time for today's trip around the patch. The Centers for Disease Control has approached Boeing about using its 737 MAX airplanes that are waiting for delivery as isolation wards for persons diagnosed with COVID-19. So far, most areas seem to be able to accommodate the new cases, so there's not been a need for a large number of additional beds to meet the demand. But we're exploring a lot of options, said a CDC representative not authorized to speak to the media. But if this continues, we might need some additional space. The FAA has posted a proposed NPRM in the Federal Register that would require a special rating for pilots still flying with traditional instruments, also known as steam gauges. According to the FAA, the full implementation of ADS-B and the proliferation of glass panels, even in the experimental segment, has eroded the navigation skills of pilots who have become dependent on following the magenta line. When pilots who have come up in airplanes with glass panels get into a cockpit that is all traditional analog instruments with a paper sectional, they have a greater tendency to get lost. In an aggressive move after being approved for acquisition by Chinese company City King, OneAviation, the company led by Alan Klapmeyer, has made a bid to acquire the Klapmeyer-founded previous company Cirrus Aviation from its Chinese parent company Avic. When we get back up to speed, we'll be well positioned in the light, jet, and turboprop markets with the Eclipse 550 and Kestrel. We need a single-engine piston product to round out the line. I happen to know of one, Klapmeyer said, and last time I checked, none of our jets had caught fire, he added. The EAA is building a water park on the grounds of Camp Scholler after years of struggling with drainage problems in the popular campground. This is going to be a win-win, said EAA spokesman Dick Napinski. We're looking at a wave pool and water slides that will feed with the water we pump out of the campground. Napinski also stated the water park will displace about 100 campsites at Camp Scholler, but the new attraction will give the association the ability to charge a premium for the remaining sites. We'll be right back with the rest of the news. The NBAA has announced presidential candidate Bernie Sanders has been added to the roster of business aviation boosters as part of its No Plane, No Gain campaign. Sanders, a self-proclaimed democratic socialist, has made extensive use of corporate jets in his run for president, using up to 3 Gulfstream jets to ferry himself and his entourage between campaign events, catching the attention of NBAA president and CEO Ed Bolin. We may disagree on a lot of issues, but anybody who gets the value of private jets for business use deserves to be considered, Boland said. We reached out to the Sanders campaign, and while they were initially leery of the idea because of the apparent conflict between socialism and corporate airplanes, Sanders himself was very receptive to the idea. Sanders stated, "I already own 3 homes, and the Bernie bros don't seem to mind that, so why not? I love traveling by private jet." President Trump responded to the announcement on Twitter. "Crazy Bernie better enjoy his private jets, because he's never going to get to use the best airplane in the world, Air Force One," he tweeted. When the U.S. Space Force was announced, the internet blew up over the similarities between the new logo and the Starfleet emblem seen in every episode of Star Trek. Now, Roddenberry says he wants his cut. Roddenberry filed a lawsuit in federal court, claiming the Space Force logo clearly is a direct copy of the Starfleet logo created for the Star Trek franchise. The suit seeks an undisclosed amount from the federal government for use of the image under copyright law. "They could have just called it Starfleet," Roddenberry said. "I mean, it's so obvious. If they had called and asked, I probably would have said yes and been flattered. But since they just kind of stole it, I want a piece of the action." A source at the Pentagon not authorized to speak to the media said they had no idea the image was still protected. And that wraps up our show for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click subscribe and to check us out on Twitter and on Facebook. For more aviation aerospace news any time of the day, head over to aero-news.net. Happy April Fools, and I'll see you tomorrow.